Its ornamentation is carved with serpents, dragons, and fantastical creatures that visually continue the horror unfolding inside the scene. It feels as if the painting cannot contain so much darkness, and it begins to spill outward. This detail, which many people don't know about, shows just how much Martin conceived his work as a complete, immersive experience.
Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to the channel if you're new. And without wasting any time, let's get to the video.
The painting you're looking at right now was created in 1841, and its title is Pandemonium. In it, we see Satan standing proudly after building the greatest palace in hell, where he will gather with all the demons of the underworld. He observes his immense creation from a cluster of rocks surrounded by boiling lava, while a bolt of lightning strikes in the background as if celebrating such an infernal occasion. In the distance, like tiny armies, we can see rows and rows of followers marching in praise of their leader, waiting for the order to finally approach him. John Martin was a master of creating monumental and extremely dramatic paintings. Throughout most of his career, he focused on biblical stories filled with apocalyptic landscapes and exceptionally dark settings that make us feel incredibly small, and this painting was no exception. Pandemonium was not a place imagined by the artist. In fact, it is the name given to the capital of hell in the famous 17th century poem Paradise Lost by John Milton. Published in 1667, this epic poem tells the story of Satan's rebellion against God, his fall from heaven along with his followers, and the subsequent creation of hell. But what makes it truly extraordinary is the way Milton humanizes Satan. In this text, Satan is not portrayed as a simple evil figure, but as a complex, intelligent, and proud being who prefers to reign in hell rather than serve in heaven.
Can someone explain to me, can someone tell me if there's like a verse in the Bible that, says or that indicates that the devil would be some kind of king in hell? Because a lot of people believe this, but like from what I've read, he's more like a prisoner there. Maybe I'm wrong. If you know, feel free to tell me.
In the opening cantos of the poem, Satan awakens after his fall, looks upon the abyss around him, and decides to build a city there. A majestic place destined to become the center of his infernal empire. That city is given the name Pandemonium, and this is precisely the scene John Martin chose to capture in his painting. This was not the first time Martin drew inspiration from Milton's poem. In fact, for more than a decade, he produced engravings based on Paradise Lost that became extremely popular in their time. In them, his characteristic style was already evident, filled with colossal landscapes, biblical cataclysms, stormy skies, and tiny figures overwhelmed by the monumental. His imagination seemed tailor-made to portray the epic visions of ancient texts. Pandemonium was the last work Martin dedicated to the Miltonic universe in 1841, and also the most grand. In it, he not only represents a key scene from the poem, but also brings together everything that obsessed him as an artist: chaos, glory, destruction, and of course, the opportunity to depict all of it on a gigantic scale.
I wonder how he was capable of doing this, because if you've tried to draw, something like this would be incredibly difficult, even now when we have all these tools we can use. And it just shows how good of an artist he was.
As if the viewer were witnessing the apocalypse itself. Now, although the inspiration for this work comes from a purely fantastical vision, its architecture is not entirely invented. In fact, if we look closely, the general structure of the building at the center of the scene strongly resembles the Palace of Westminster, the same one that today houses the British Parliament, and that is no coincidence. John Martin was living in London when the new building began construction after the fire of 1834. The entire city was aware of the project, and the Gothic revival design proposed by Charles Barry became a major topic in the urban landscape. Martin, as an artist deeply interested in the monumental and the dramatic, found in these real structures the perfect inspiration to imagine the capital of hell. When you place both buildings side by side, the similarities become striking in the rhythm of the columns, in the geometry of the facade, and of course in the overall grandeur. The most noticeable difference is that in the lower part of the building, Martin added a series of arches that raised the entire structure above a river of boiling lava. And on the facade, if you look carefully, you can see carved figures of coiled serpents, giving it a much darker appearance because we are no longer looking at a human construction but at an infernal temple. As for the river flowing beneath the scene, it is not just an aesthetic element. This incandescent current is a symbolic and rather direct representation of the River Thames as it existed in the 1840s. At that time, the river was a genuine sanitary threat to the population. London faced constant cholera outbreaks, and its waters were so contaminated by human and industrial waste that the smell could be detected from several kilometers away. It was, quite literally, a foul and dangerous river.
I love how there's always so much to see in paintings, from what they draw, and what was going on in their minds when they, drew it. Like how the history of the time they were in affected these drawings, and the more you look, the more you see.
What is most interesting is that years before painting Pandemonium, John Martin had proposed an ambitious infrastructure plan to clean up the city, a network of sewers and canals that would have prevented many of the diseases that later devastated the population. However, no one took him seriously and the proposal was rejected. So Martin, likely frustrated, decided to transform the problem he was not allowed to solve into a vision of what hell itself might become as time passed. When Pandemonium was first exhibited in 1841 at the Royal Academy in London, not everyone was impressed. The painting received mixed reactions. Some viewers were dazzled by its scale, its drama, and the ambition behind it, but others found it excessive and even ridiculous. One of its most well-known critics was John Ruskin, one of the most influential artistic voices of the era. Ruskin had a very particular idea of what art should be. He believed it should be sober, moral, closely connected to nature, and rooted in spiritual values. And for him, the works of John Martin fulfilled none of these ideals. He even went so far as to describe Martin's paintings as pantomimes of the apocalypse. Although that is a harsh criticism for any artist, it also tells us a lot about how the painting was perceived in its time. Pandemonium did not fit at all within traditional standards. It was too big and too scandalous for many academic tastes, but in my opinion, that is precisely where the power of this painting lies. While other artists aim to represent the divine, the beautiful, or the realistic, Martin chose instead to portray chaos and destruction. Now, beyond everything we have seen so far, there is one element I haven't shown you yet that makes this painting even more incredible and elevates it into a true masterpiece.
So basically, the critic thought his way of drawing art was better, so he hated what the other guy wasn't doing. Maybe hate is a bit of a strong word, but like if you've drawn anything, like you understand that just because you see it one way doesn't mean that's how it should be. Like, at least, that's what I think.
And that element is its frame. John Martin also designed the frame. Its ornamentation is carved with serpents, dragons, and fantastical creatures that visually continue the horror unfolding inside the scene. It feels as if the painting cannot contain so much darkness, and it begins to spill outward. This detail, which many people don't know about, shows just how much Martin conceived his work as a complete, immersive experience. Today, Pandemonium is part of the collection of the Louvre Museum in Paris, hanging in a gallery alongside other 19th century works, but it unfortunately does not receive much attention. Few visitors stop in front of it, and it rarely appears in lists or recommended tours, which is almost ironic considering how much this painting communicates, and not only about the past, Because beyond its literary inspiration, Pandemonium can also be read as a modern critique of urban arrogance. Martin watched his city rise on sick foundations, and he portrayed it as what he feared it would become, a modern version of hell. Thank you for making it to the end of this video.
From what I'd heard, I thought it was quite a popular painting, but maybe not so much compared to the others. But I wonder, what people think when they, go see it in like museums and things like that. Maybe one day I'll go there and see it for myself. But anyway, what do you all think? Is it would this be something you'd go to, see in the art museum or not? And the link to the original video is going to be in the description, and you can go check out his videos. He has many more like it, and they're also pretty interesting. And thank you all for watching, and see you guys in the next video.